Good morning, Britain. Avoid travel to England's COVID hotspots. The official new advice despite no formal announcement. So is the government preparing to put the country back into tears? Dragged off a hijacked Ryanair aircraft and made to confess on camera as Roman Protasevich speaks for the first time since being arrested in Belarus. Reports now claims Russian KGB agents were also on board the aircraft. The 9-minute shocking video that sparked a worldwide civil rights movement. A year since the death of George Floyd at the hands of the police, what has really changed? The Labour MP David Lammy claims the government isn't doing enough for UK race relations. He joins us live. And he's one of the funniest men in Hollywood. After 6:30, Seth Rogen reveals why his latest project could change your life, and why he tells more stories about taking drugs than his mum would like. He joins us live.
And you might want to look twice. Yes, after a fair few days of heavy showers, thundery downpours even, things are looking up as we head towards the bank holiday weekend. Temperatures heading in the right direction, highs of 22 as we get towards Friday. All that and more coming up on Good Morning Britain.
Tuesday, 25th of May, 2021. Live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain with Charlotte Hawkins.
Good morning, it's 6 o'clock. We're with you all the way through until 9 with Bill and Susanna here from 6:30. First, our top story. The government's been accused of causing confusion for failing to formally announce new restrictions on travelling in and out of COVID hotspots. Residents in 8 areas of England with high rates of the Indian variant, including Bolton, were issued with the guidance last week, but local leaders and public health directors hadn't been notified. Well, Nick Dixon is at the Royal Bolton Hospital with more on this. Good morning, Nick. Now, this seems to have come in under the radar, so what's happening with enforcement of it?
Morning, Charlotte. Well, this is official government guidance, so it's the council's responsibility now to get that messaging out there and let as many people know about the situation as possible, make them aware of what's happening. The problem is, certainly for some councils, they're saying that they didn't actually know about this guidance in some cases until late last night. So it's quite a confusing and uncertain picture. Now, the guidance was officially published by the government on Friday without any prior announcement. And we can see from the map it actually affects 8 different areas, not just in the north, in different parts of the country, clearly in the north, but also Leicester in the Midlands, Hounslow, West London. And that advice from the government is that you shouldn't travel in or out of those areas and indeed meet people indoors. But the fact is, an awful lot of people will be blissfully unaware of what's happening.
It looks as though local areas may be being bounced into this, when actually it would have been better if they'd been making the decisions for themselves. The lack of decisiveness, the poor communications, the inconsistency, marching people up to the top of the hill and marching them down again, it's not good. It's not good government. It's not good management of a pandemic.
Now, we have heard from the government this morning. They have issued a statement, and it says they have been working with local authorities. We took swift and decisive action to slow the spread of the Indian variant by introducing surge testing and bringing forward second doses of the vaccine for the most vulnerable. We provided extra guidance for those living in affected areas when we became aware of the risk posed by the variant, to encourage people to take an extra cautious approach when meeting others or indeed travelling. But as I say, Charlotte, this original guidance published on Friday, but an awful lot of councils completely unaware, and people watching this morning in these areas, in all likelihood, this will be the first time they're hearing about it.
OK, Nick, thanks very much. The European Union has joined the UK in issuing sanctions against Belarus following what's been described as a state-sponsored hijack of a plane. The international community is calling for the immediate release of the journalist Roman Protasevich, who was arrested by Belarusian authorities when the flight was forced to land in Minsk. Our chief correspondent Richard Gaisford is at the embassy of Belarus for us this morning. Good morning, Richard. And what's going to happen if the Belarusians don't comply with this? Are we likely to see further action from the UK?
Yeah, the UK is certainly looking at further targeted sanctions. Its words matching those of the EU at the moment, Charlotte, which is leading this response. The Belarusian ambassador here in London is certainly fully aware of the distaste for his country's actions. He was taken from the embassy yesterday to the Foreign Office for what's best described as a diplomatic dressing down, although Western governments are slightly worried that they push Belarus too far into the arms of Vladimir Putin and Russia backing effectively what is state-sponsored hijacking of this aircraft. A lot of questions still unanswered about it too, including who were 3 extra people who got off that plane in Minsk and never got back on it, made that final journey to Vilnius. It's thought they could have been KGB agents who were trailing their 26-year-old target. Looking tired with suspects bruising on his forehead, Roman Protasevich appears on state television. The opposition journalist confesses to ordering mass protests in Belarus. His supporters say his confession was made under duress.
He's acting very reserved and you can see he is nervous. It is very likely that his nose is broken.
Roman was arrested on what's been branded a state hijacking on Sunday. This Ryanair plane was due to carry him and his Russian girlfriend from Lithuania to Athens, but it was forced to divert and land in Minsk due to a supposed bomb threat. Belarus's actions have been condemned across the world and calls are growing for Roman's immediate release. Overnight, EU leaders agreed to slap Belarus with more sanctions and ban their airlines from EU airspace.
The European Council decided that there will be additional sanctions on individuals that are involved in the hijacking, but this time also on businesses and economic entities that are financing this regime.
Britain and the US are taking a similar approach.
We're very confident that no airlines will fly from the UK to Belarus.
But one former ambassador says sanctions can have limited impact.
Sanctions are very good gestural politics. The brutal fact remains that they haven't changed Russian policy one jot, and they're very unlikely to change Belarusian policy one jot.
Belarus's dictator, President Alexander Lukashenko, has been clamping down on opposition protesters since winning a disputed election last August. His regime is this morning under huge international pressure, but there's no sign yet that Roman Protasevich will be released anytime soon. Richard Gaisford, Good Morning Britain.
US President Joe Biden will meet with the family of George Floyd at the White House today to mark the first anniversary of his death at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer. It comes as new policing legislation named in honour of Mr. Floyd continues to be debated in Congress, despite the president setting today as a deadline for its approval. Our North American correspondent Noel Phillips is in Yonkers in New York. Good morning, Noel. Now, the George Floyd Justice Policing Act, it could reshape the future of policing there in the US, couldn't it?
That's right. Good morning, Charlotte. So President Biden was hoping to sign the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act in line with today's anniversary. And that bill would essentially ban chokeholds and hold police officers more accountable. But in the meantime, it's been left to police departments like Yonkers to try and introduce their own radical reforms. And one of the things that they did following the death of George Floyd last year was introduce these body cameras. And these were, of course, critical in the trial of Derek Chauvin, weren't they? And alongside these, they've also rolled out tasers. And tasers are essential when it comes to de-escalation instead of using excessive force.
I watched that video, I want to say estimate of 40, 50 times.
The 9-minute footage that sparked a global movement is also Terrence Floyd's final link to his big brother.
You know how when someone passed away, you'll call a phone and you listen to the voicemail just to hear their voice again? It was sort of like that. I heard him speaking on the video, and that was my only way of hearing him speak again.
A year on, Terrence and his family will visit the White House today as President Biden struggles to get police reforms through the Senate.
And I hope in our conversations, he'll just, further his efforts on his promise of passing the bill, because it will stop all these other victims, all these other George Floyds, Breonna Taylors, Dante Wrights from happening again.
In the city of Yonkers, though, there has been changes. Like many police forces across America, it's transformed its policing tactics in the last year. Body cams rolled out for all officers, as well as intelligence-led strategies and de-escalation training to avoid deadly confrontations.
We definitely will see another incident. Absolutely. We will. We you know, human beings are imperfect. There are bad cops out there. There are cops that make, you know, honest mistakes. There are also people that are addicted to drugs, people that are violent, people that are mentally ill. And when you put all those different things together, I think the key here to me is to not say it'll never happen again.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! A phrase that has become a rallying cry against police brutality. Derek Chauvin, the former police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, will be sentenced next month. But those taking part in events to mark the anniversary say lawmakers must deliver urgent federal legislations to ensure the murder of George Floyd is a lasting moment for change. Noel Phillips, Good Morning Britain, New York.
And I'll be speaking to Commissioner John Muller, who you saw in that report there of Yonkers Police Department, to find out more about the changes that have been made and also whether he thinks another killing like that of George Floyd could happen today. Now, a black equal rights activist has undergone surgery after being shot in the head following a party at the weekend. 27-year-old Sasha Johnson remains in a critical condition following the attack, in which police believe she was not the target. Last night, a group gathered for a vigil close to the hospital where she's being treated. They played African drums and prayed for Miss Johnson to pull through.
She's never been about Black Lives Matter. She's been about all lives matter. The underclass, the working class. She's been there.
Despite the fact that she has been threatened on numerous occasions and found herself in situations where, you know, people were being aggressive and whatever, but she never backed down.
We hear about these incidents, but when you hear of it to someone you know and someone who's so relevant, I mean, everybody is relevant, but yeah, it's devastating.
Now, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge tried their hands at making chapatis and dished out portions of curry for the vulnerable in Scotland yesterday. The pair's joint engagements will continue today with a visit to Orkney and on Wednesday with a visit to St Andrews University, where they first met as students 20 years ago. In sports news now, Gareth Southgate has delayed the announcement of his England squad for the upcoming European Championship because of injuries. The England managers pushed back naming the extended 26-man party until the 1st of June, with the provisional group being announced later today instead. A number of players, including Jordan Henderson and Harry Maguire, are injury concerns, with other key players involved in European finals this week.
So I think it makes sense to name a bigger squad now. If you do lose a player or two, then you basically can trim it down and basically go back to that. But I think actually the excitement of naming the squad makes it feel real. And I think the fact is that basically we've waited a year for this tournament. It's been postponed by 12 months. So I'm still struggling to get my head around the fact that we're just about to see this feast of football.
Now it's 6:13, time to find out what's happening weather-wise. Alex has got all the details. Morning, Alex. I mean, yesterday, the showers at some times were really heavy and stormy we had in our area, but I'm cheered on by the fact you've got good news ahead of the bank holiday.
You're right, Charlotte. There is some good news on the way, but yesterday we certainly saw a fair few showers. Take a look, actually, at these pictures. This was the view from the Shard yesterday, the cloud cover rolling in. You can see just how heavy it was, and eventually we did see a fair few heavy downpours. So, yes, things are going to get a fair bit better as we start to see that low pressure moving away, high pressure rolls in. However, at the moment, we've seen a lot of rainfall. These are the totals so far. In fact, for Wales, they've seen their wettest May on record with 200 millimetres. They should be at around 80 millimetres for this time in late May. So as you can see, it has been pretty wet. But let's take a look at the weather for the next few days. And you can see the jet stream makes its way a little bit further north. That allows that warm air to feed up from the south. So temperatures get into the low 20s, which is going to be pretty nice for the bank holiday weekend. So for once, things are looking up when they should be. As for today, it is going to be a mixed day of sunny spells, some showers, certainly heaviest in the east, but staying rather cool for the time being. And on the satellite and radar picture from a few moments ago, you can see we've got showers in across some northern areas, and these are going to really hug the east coast as we head through the rest of the day. They're going to be quite potent as well, perhaps merging into longer spells of rain. We're also going to see another area of rain making its way in across the southwest of England. So things going downhill here, but away from here, as you can see, a real mix of some sunny spells and also some showers. Those temperatures for the time being stay below average, but they are heading in the right direction, which is good news. As for this evening and overnight, well, we will start to see those showers gradually dying down. The rain across the southwest also pushes its way into France overnight tonight, so things become a little bit clearer. But we are going to see another batch of showers feed in from the northeast, and that will hug the east coast as we head into tomorrow. Overnight temperatures did be down to 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. That's your forecast. Back to you, Charlotte.
Alex, thanks very much. Good to have something to look forward to. Well, Good Morning Britain's here all the way through until 9. Bill and Susanna will be here from 6:30. And joining them live will be star of Knocked Up and Superbad, Seth Rogen, whose new memoir dishes the dirt and some of his comedy encounters with Hollywood's finest. And we'll have the latest on the Eurovision drug scandal with our guest entertainment editor, Will Njovu. That's coming up in just a few minutes' time. First, though, let's get the news, travel and weather where you are. See you in just a moment. Hello again. Let's take a look at the front pages of today's newspapers now. And the UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab has promised sanctions against Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko, the Metro reports, calling the diversion of the flight over a supposed bomb threat a danger to civilian flights everywhere. The Daily Telegraph reports that people who've had 2 doses of the vaccine could still be made to self-isolate at home if they've been in contact with someone who's had the virus after the 21st of June, when the final stage of England's roadmap out of lockdown is due to take place. And you should help them is the Daily Mirror's headline today. The paper reporting that Premier League star Marcus Rashford has urged the government to finally do the right thing after MPs debated his child hunger petition. Now, President Joe Biden will meet with the family of George Floyd at the White House today to mark the first anniversary of his murder by a white police officer. Mr. Floyd's death shocked the world, led to mass protests and turned the spotlight on police reforms in the US and beyond. Noel Phillips has been to Yonkers, a city in New York which has changed its policing tactics to avoid deadly confrontations.
It's broad daylight in the city of Yonkers, and police are chasing a suspect with a loaded gun. What happens next is shocking. The man fires the gun 5 times.
Not one officer fired a shot. This guy fired into a crowded area with pedestrians and vehicles and there were bullet holes in windows and everything else. And not one officer fired a shot, and they de-escalated.
Like all of America's 18,000 police departments, Yonkers has had to change its way of policing and dealing with lethal force incidents following the murder of George Floyd. In the last year, the force has introduced body cams for all officers, as well as intelligence-led only tactics targeting offenders and de-escalation training on how to avoid deadly confrontations.
Put your hands up!
In the summer of 2020, a critical moment in this country's history, Veronica and Anthony graduated Police Academy.
I think it's very important for women, especially women of color, to be represented in this field alone. And I think when I'm out in these streets and people see me, it gives them hope.
You know, there's going to be one bad apple of the group, okay? But not all of us entirely, most of us, and I could speak on behalf of most of the cops I've worked with in this department. Everybody here respects the public.
But for those wanting to change perceptions, it's hard enough being a police officer, especially when you're black.
I haven't lost friends, but people do look at you a little different. You do have a stronger burden to hold because they believe that, you know, there's a sense of betrayal. The way I overcome that is I show them I'm still the same person.
All eyes now on lawmakers to introduce reforms as America continues its search for ways to repair its bloody and tragic relationship between the police and black community. Noel Phillips, Good Morning Britain in Yonkers.
And I'm joined now by Commissioner John Muller from the Yonkers Police Department in New York. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We saw there some of the changes that you've made, the focus on de-escalation, but just talk us through what you think the most important changes are that you've brought in since the death of George Floyd to try to make sure something like that doesn't happen within your department.
I think one of the most important things that we've seen is the concept of procedural justice. Procedural justice was put forth in the 21st century policing model through President Barack Obama. And it has, there are 4 pillars. The first pillar is to explain why you're doing what you're doing, to be clear about it and transparent. The second is to give someone a voice. The third is mental health and wellness. And the fourth is to come forward in being very objective. So there are 64 million interactions in the United States every year with police. So it's very important that when we interact with someone, and most people only interact 3 or 4 times in their entire life, that we get it right.
And a number of other states and cities, other departments have also made changes, but is it enough to make the real difference? Do you believe that another killing like that of George Floyd could still happen today in the United States?
Yes, it can still happen. I think I like to use the term and draw a parallel with the pandemic. You know, what are we doing to vaccinate ourselves to make sure that although it can happen when you have all these different variables and you have humans involved, we can keep it as unlikely as possible. So we have to vaccinate ourselves. We have to do community outreach. We have to improve training. We have to make sure that we engage in precision policing. We show respect. All of these different things, and more research too, because the police profession is one of the most under-researched professions anywhere, and it's kind of shocking that that's the case. But we need to partner with academic institutions as well to make sure we're understanding best practice, what evidence-based research tells us.
How much damage do you think has been done to police reputation because of what's happened, and how do you think you'll be able to regain people's trust?
I think it's, well, for the first question, I think there's been terrible damage, but we're looking towards a brighter day. Police departments all over the United States, you're talking about 18,000 police departments, you're talking about 800,000 police officers. Each department is different. We don't have one larger department like many countries in Europe, so you have to really zero in on exactly what each department is doing well and why they're doing it well, and what they need to improve upon. And so when you do that, we can't do this with a chainsaw. It has to be done with a scalpel. You go department by department, officer by officer. You look at the metrics. You try to figure out what we need to do in each police department, and that's how we get better.
Okay, Commissioner John Muller from the Yonkers Police Department, thanks very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you. Good morning, Britain.
Now 6:24, Will Njovu's back with today's entertainment news. Good morning to you. It's not good news for Little Mix's Leanne, is it? Because she's had her engagement ring stolen.
I know, Charlotte. Good morning. She makes up 1/3 of Little Mix and is no stranger to flashing that bling-bling during her performances with her fellow bandmates on stage. But now Leanne Pinnock is said to be absolutely devastated after revealing that thieves have swiped her engagement ring that is said to be valued at over £40,000. The diamond-encrusted rock was given to her by her footballer fiancé, Andre Gray, last May after popping the question, and is alleged to have gone missing during the house move after being kept in her safe in their master bedroom, with Leanne said to be unable to find it after removal teams finished. Police are now said to be probing the theft at the couple's home in Surrey. So fingers crossed they'll be able to crack the case before Lee actually pops after announcing recently that she's pregnant alongside her fellow bandmate, Perry Edwards. Next up, after bringing the house down in Europe over the weekend, Italian winners Maneskin have now been let off the hook after lead singer Damiano David was accused of taking cocaine during the contest. The star, who has denied the claims, has since returned a negative drugs test. The EBU have released this statement saying, following allegations of drug use in the green room, the European Broadcasting Union, as requested by the Italian delegation, has conducted a thorough review of the facts, including checking all available footage. No drug use took place in the green room, and we consider the matter closed. Elsewhere in the world of entertainment, he is the interstellar star who now wants you to call him by a different name. That's Wonka, Willy Wonka to be precise. After Oscar nominee Timothée Chalamet revealed he's set to play the latest reincarnation of the crazy chocolatier in a new Origins movie that's also set to feature lots of singing and dancing too, which is what we need, right? The film will focus on the early years of Wonka before he opened his factory, and it's set to be released in 2023. Now, it's a little while away, and I thought, there's no visuals, so I got the graphics team to mock up this picture of what Tim would look like in this role, and he just looks fabulous, doesn't he,
Looking very dapper.
Very, very dapper, exactly. And he will, of course, have big shoes to fill, as he has to follow in the footsteps of acting royalty Gene Wilder, who starred in the 1971 original, and Johnny Depp, who took on the role in Tim Burton's 2005 fantasy film.
Oh, do you know what? I love those films as well.
I
So I'm
love
looking
those
forward to having
films.
another one.
Exactly, and I think Tim's brilliant, actually. He's great for this. He's a great fit.
Look forward to seeing.
Brilliant actor. And finally, it's that time of the year again, where the best of British telly is awarded with a cheeky gong at the National Television Awards. And Good Morning Britain has made the long list, with voting officially open now nationwide, ahead of that all-important prize-giving ceremony. This year, the awards will take place on the 9th of September at London's O2 Arena after being pushed back due to the pandemic, of course, with cheeky chappy Joe Dommett taking over on hosting duties for the Big Bash. So what are you waiting for? To vote for Good Morning Britain, please log on to itv.com/Good Morning Britain, with voting closing at 11 p.m. on Friday, the 4th of June, 2021. Fingers crossed, Charlotte.
Fingers crossed. Come on, you know what to do. Will, thank you so much for taking us through all of that. Good to see you. And coming up next, Bill and Susanna will be here in just a moment. And this morning, they'll be talking to comedian and Strictly Come Dancing winner Bill Bailey about his bid to save the UK from another nil point performance at next year's Eurovision. Also coming up this morning, the Love Island star with a serious message for us all after her cancer diagnosis. That's all coming up this morning. Let's have a look now at the weather. Here's Alex.
We predict showers. Warm showers. Do see. Proud sponsors of Good Morning Britain National Weather. Boxed boilers.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Things are looking up as we head through the rest of this week. The showers will start to die away eventually. The jet stream starts to make its way further south, and that allows that warmer air from the near continent to come across our shore. So temperatures are going to be up into the low 20s by the time we get to Friday, Saturday, and also Bank Holiday Monday, looking up for a change. As for today, though, things are slightly more changeable. Certainly some sunny spells around, but also a fair few showers, heaviest in the east, and still rather cool for this time in late May. As for the satellite and radar picture, well, as you can see, those showers across many northern and eastern areas. As I say, that it could be quite heavy, maybe even thundery as we head through the course of the day. Also, another area of rain will start to push into southwest England a bit later on as well. But in between, some bright spells of sunshine, but temperatures still a little below par for the time of year, highs of 17 degrees Celsius in the south. But these temperatures will start to kind of rise as we head towards Friday and the weekend. So something certainly to look forward to. Tonight, those showers do start to die away. Now let's take a look at the 7-day outlook, where your weekend is always in view, and it is a bank holiday weekend. And for a change, things are looking pretty decent. You can see as we head through today, over the next couple of days, still some showers in the forecast, but we are going to see that high pressure building as we head towards the end of the week into the weekend. So temperatures across the north up to 17 degrees Celsius, which is really where they should be, perhaps even a little bit higher for the time of year. Chance of rain is going to be relatively low as well. You can see dips to kind of 10-20%. So yes, the chance of a few spits and spots of rain, but largely dry conditions for most of us. Let's now switch to the south, and that's where we are going to see the heat building somewhat more. So you can see changeable over the next couple of days, but those temperatures do shoot up to 20 degrees as we head towards Bank Holiday Monday, maybe even a little bit higher. And again, the chance of rain dips to 10%. So largely dry conditions. Enjoy the forecast.
For the weather in detail where you are, go to itv.com/weather.